Hello, and welcome to Character Gallery. I'm here at the Japanese Train, aka Matt.
And I'm Master of the Lemons, aka Lemmy.
And
It's
Happy New Year!
yeah. Happy New Year, folks. I know it's been a while, but I assure you, throughout all this time, me and Matt have the thought has never wavered that we would eventually return to the show. I know we didn't give updates as to where we've been, but that's just because that's not our style. You know, I mean we just do this show when we feel like it, and we love talking about the characters. And I think it would cheapen that a little bit to give constant character gallery updates. It's like, hey, here's why we haven't been active, etc. Because I think those always get disappointing. You know, like you keep saying, oh, we'll be back in June. No, we'll be back in July. No, we'll be back in... Eventually we just decided we'll be back when we're back. But we adore this show. Yeah, and we're back.
We're starting it off, I think, with a pretty decent character. One of my favorites. A character that a lot of people, I think, love, but a lot of people don't talk about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, she doesn't get, like, a ton of deep analysis.
And unlike a lot of characters, she's had a real arc. She's had, you know, a significant transformation, I think, throughout the series.
Yeah, she really has. And I think a lot of people might feel compelled to look at that as kind of a character rebrand, which you could certainly do. But honestly, I think it works. I think it makes a lot of sense that she starts out as this kind of feistier character that is really kind of, she's very eager to prove herself, and then slowly turns into this, like, very dedicated and mature worker. I think that Mavis's transformation as a character makes a lot of sense. But I don't think it really is because of... Like, I think she's more mature in the early stories than we give her credit for. Because the thing is, she's juxtaposed with Toby, who really doesn't give her very much credit at all. Toby knows a lot, right? Toby's extremely wise. He definitely knows a lot of things Mavis doesn't know. But the second that he meets her, he's, like, jamming all this information down her throat. Like, he's immediately like, all right, Mavis, listen to this. Yeah, you've got to make sure you shunt the trucks in this siding, because that's how I've done it for the last 10 years, and you've got to put them here, and you've got to make sure that, you know, you show up at 8 a.m., and he's got all these rules, right?
And she's not even a member of the Northwestern Railway.
Right, no, exactly. And that's the biggest thing, I think, is really, really interesting about Mavis, is that, you know, we tend to see her as kind of this young upstart that isn't listening to her elder. But the thing is, Toby really isn't her elder.
She doesn't owe anything to him. She's new. She has a vision of how she wants to do things.
And she's owned by the quarry company. So the quarry manager is really her elder. He's the one she should be listening to. And honestly, she probably is. I bet that when she arrived, right, you know, the quarry manager walks up and, oh, hello there, Mavis. So glad to have you here at the quarry. Here's how to do everything. And he explains how to lay everything out. She takes notes. She's like, all right, okay, got it. I'll make sure I do it exactly like that. And then Toby shows up, like 5 minutes late, and he's like, all right, time to teach you everything. And Mavis is like, no, well, actually, the quarry manager just, okay, first step, put the trucks in that siding. But he said put them in that other siding. And then second step, like, he's not listening to her, right?
Right.
Like, because the thing is, Toby's been doing, like, a favor for the quarry company all these years. Like, they didn't really have an engine of their own. They couldn't afford one. So they'd been relying on Thomas, and when Thomas got replaced with Toby, they relied on Toby. But, like, really what they wanted was their own engine to do their own jobs.
And then they finally get one, and Thomas and Toby are probably together like, oh gosh, we have to train the new intern, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I think, you know, and really she's not an intern at all. She's a more legitimate employee than they are.
And of course that's when she, like, snaps at Toby, and she's like, you know, you're an old fusspot. You don't need to tell me what to do. And then he's like, well, you've got a lot of opinions, don't you, Mavis?
Yeah, no, exactly, you know. I think, you know, it's just that misunderstanding of, like, Toby, one of the biggest things that he does is shunting at the quarry. And I feel like he's really being replaced, but he doesn't see it that way, or maybe refuses to see it that way. You know, he just kind of, like, every engine reacts differently to being replaced. Scarlowi and Rheneas kind of reacted with relief when Sir Handel and Peter Sam came in and kind of lessened the burden, and they're kind of like, good, now we can rest. Gordon reacted to Pip and Emma with
Oh my god, my express career is over.
My life is over.
yeah. And then Toby reacts with Mavis being like, well, I'm kind of here to replace you. Sorry about that, Toby.
No, you're not. I'm gonna keep on doing the work. I'm gonna teach you everything I know.
Toby reacts with outright denial.
I know, yeah, he's literally just like, he keeps coming up to the quarry, and I feel like at this point he's like a crazy old man. They're kind of like the quarry manager would be talking to like another employee, and they'd be looking across the yard from like the managing office, and see Toby shunting around and bumping into stuff, and they'd just be like, he does know he's not supposed to be here anymore, right? He's not really supposed to go past Farquhar.
I've literally dealt with these kind of people before who have retired like 10 years ago and they still show up to work and tell people how to do their jobs.
Right, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, that's what Toby is, right? And the thing is, here's the thing, is Toby does have a wealth of information to share, and also Mavis and the quarry company would be happy to let him still work around there. He'd be helpful. Because Toby doesn't have a lot to do on the branch line otherwise. I mean, he takes workmen to the quarry, that's about it. He's not really meant to shunt there, but I'm sure they would be happy to have him help out if he were more respectful. But he isn't. Instead, he, talks down to Mavis. And I think that's really why she gets pissed at him. But then we don't see the part at the beginning where the two first meet, and Mavis tries to explain that she's under different orders than Toby, who is a Northwestern Railway holdover. So, she's trying to do right by the quarry, the company that bought her and the company that owns her. But then all we see is her disobeying Toby, because we know what Toby wants. We know what the Northwestern Railway wants. We don't get to hear much from the quarry, despite the fact that it's literally written on her side plates, and Toby doesn't have jack squat written on those. So,
right. And of course this turns Mavis into a little bit of a rebel too, because she starts testing Toby to see what she can get away with. And
right.
Of course, since she's locked in the quarry all day, she's going to see if Toby will give an inch and if she could take a mile. She's trying to test Toby and see what she can get away with, which seems to be quite a lot, actually.
And I think that, her natural nature is to be a rule follower, because I think that's what she slips into later. When Toby finally has his big moment where he's like,
all right, maybe I've been overstepping a little bit. I'm sorry about that, Mavis.
Once he finally gets to that point, then she can finally start loosening up, and naturally she is a very disciplined and dedicated worker. She still had a lot to learn about the quarry that Toby does eventually teach her, but only when he loosens up and stops demeaning her, right?
In stories like Mavis and Toby's Tightrope, she's almost rebelling through malicious compliance.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, I'll follow your rules, all right? I'll follow your rules. I'll take the
train. Yeah, Toby's literally
fine, you don't want to listen to me? Take it yourself.
And then she's like, well, I will do that, actually. Thank you. And she does, right? But I think it's really interesting where Toby and Mavis have such a tense relationship just because Toby still believes that he has a role at this quarry, and Mavis still has a lot to learn, and yet also is very capable in a lot of areas, and he won't acknowledge that. And honestly, this reminds me a lot of another character pairing. It reminds me of Gordon and Thomas a lot.
Yeah, I see that.
It's like the same thing when you think about it. The difference is that Gordon was kind of at his prime when he was trying to kind of instruct Thomas, whereas Toby's kind of past his prime. But either way, I can definitely see a lot of Thomas in Mavis. Which is why, honestly, I think, once Thomas hears about what's going on at the quarry, I feel like he would probably, start to empathize with Mavis. Imagine that Toby, shortly after Toby's Tightrope, right, where Toby gets rescued by Mavis, he apologizes to her, and then starts leaving her alone, right? He's like,
all right, I'm just going to give you some space. That's probably for the best. Ask me if you need any advice, because frankly I don't really know when to give it and when not to.
And so he backs off, right? And then I think that, maybe Thomas goes up to the quarry, which he's not supposed to do, but I think he starts He gives it like
he
a year and a
picks
half.
the time when the policeman's off of his shift.
Exactly. Like, I could just imagine Thomas at the very edge of Farquhar Yards, kind of like spying from a distance, seeing the policeman's house as he like gets out of it and goes into it, and Thomas is kind of trying to remember like when he comes back from his shift. He sees the bicycle go by, and Thomas is like, all right, let's go for it. And he goes down, like, up the Quarry Tram Road. Like, he literally waits for the perfect time so that he can get in there when the policeman isn't around. And the policeman thinks that he's just totally driven Thomas off of that stretch of line, when in fact all he's done is forced him underground. So, you know.
On his own branch line.
Yes. So Thomas sneaks up there, I think. And, you know, starts spending some time with Mavis, where he kind of like, Mavis, maybe even in the middle of being frustrated with Toby about something, like they've just had a big fight, Mavis is bashing trucks around, right? And she's just like, I can't believe that old fuddy-duddy, he really doesn't see any value in me, does he? He just thinks that I don't know a thing. He thinks that I'm clueless. I am not clueless. And then Thomas kind of pulls up, and maybe she like bashes a truck across the yard, and then suddenly it slows to a stop, and you kind of hear like a kind of buffer grinding noise, and then it stops. And then Thomas shunts it back, and he's like, wow, okay, you're pushing those a little fast. And Mavis is like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize that there was another engine here. Wait, you're Thomas the Tank Engine, aren't you? And Thomas is just like, in the flesh. So, what's up? And, you know, he kind of like, they start to kind of discuss Toby, like on a personal level. Like, you know, who is he and why does he act the way he does? And maybe Thomas kind of breaks it down for her as Thomas is like, okay, here's the first thing you need to know about Toby, Mavis. Toby, he's old. He's really, 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 really old. And he doesn't really get to do much around here these days. I mean, basically what he does is he picks up passengers at the harbor, and he takes them to the quarry, and he kind of does that over and over again every single day for the rest of his life. That's basically what Toby does. He kind of needs a purpose. He needs something to do. And you've kind of come in and taken some of that from him. I mean, if you would have just let him shunt around here a little bit, I think he'd feel a lot better. And Mavis is just like, you know, well, that's actually, I mean, I don't really like him poking his funnel around here, but I didn't realize that he was so reliant on this place. I mean, I don't know, that I've heard a lot of good things about him. I thought that he did a lot more around here. And Thomas is just like, not really. I mean, this is his big thing. You know, and they, like, if they got to talking about Toby some more, I think Mavis would start to build some empathy around him. But also, I feel like Thomas would have a lot of respect for Mavis. He would kind of start to be like, you know, he would start to relate to her, where Mavis is just like, yeah. I don't like being pushed around. I don't like people underestimating my abilities. There's a lot that I can do if you just give me a chance. And Thomas is like, huh, you know, you're preaching to the choir here. I felt the same way when I was younger. And they kind of, you know, I'm sure they would click after a while.
Yeah. Well, especially because, like, not only does Mavis share a similar dynamic with Toby, she shares similar circumstances. Ugh, I can't talk today. She shares similar circumstances as Thomas being the station pilot. You know, she's locked away in a quarry for most of the day and doesn't get to go out, and anytime she wants to go out, you know, be it for rebellion or whatever, Toby's like immediately putting the smackdown on it, or he's, you know, like, or he's in some I told you so mood where he's not supporting her.
Yeah,
so,
no, exactly. And so it's like, I mean,
I can
like,
even
really
see Thomas encouraging Mavis to go further and further out, like,
right, yeah,
of the
like,
yard.
Imagine Mavis, you know, even when she's like allowed to take trains to Farquhar, Mavis is kind of looking at the exit to the yard and seeing like the hills in the distance, and even seeing like little puffs of smoke from distant chimneys, and maybe dust being kicked up in the very, very, very far horizon by Terrence's field. And Mavis is just looking at that like, and Thomas just pulls up next to her slowly, and he's like, you know, you could go for it. And Mavis is just like, what? No, I absolutely couldn't, Thomas.
I've never gone for anything in my life.
Well, why not start now? I mean, come on, you've proven yourself in the quarry. You're really capable, Mavis. Well, but am I capable of going down the entire branch line? I mean, yeah, you are. I'll stop the signals for you. Like, or maybe he's even literally like, Thomas takes a deep breath and he's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you see those coaches over there? And he gestures to the station, and Annie and Clarabelle are waiting. You could take my train. Just this once. It's not going to be a regular thing, but you could take my train. And Mavis is just shocked, like, you'd really let me do that? And then Thomas kind of looks at her like, here's the thing, Mavis. I'm very specific about who takes Annie and Clarabelle and who doesn't, but the biggest thing that determines that is that whoever pulls them needs to care. A lot. Pulling those coaches is a privilege. A real privilege. And you have to be dedicated to this line and dedicated to them if you're going to pull them. I can't say that about a lot of engines. I mean, Percy, God bless him, but he keeps bumping into stuff and he's always coming off the tracks and he's very clueless. Toby, well, he cares about Henrietta, but not much else. But you seem like you're just as dedicated to this line as I am. I don't see that in a lot of engines. I think I respect you just enough to hand them over to you. Just for today. And Mavis is just kind of like, almost in tears. She's just like,
Yeah.
I can't believe you let me. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. I'll go and pull them right away. And Thomas is like, just make sure you're careful, please. And she's like, kind of like, petering off into the distance, right, about to back down on the coaches. And Thomas is just holding his breath, like, all right, I hope she handles them well. But she backs down on the coaches, right? And this is like the first time Mavis has ever pulled coaches, like in her life.
Mm-hmm.
But she backs down on them and very gently. So she's very careful about it, because even though she's rough with the trucks, she can be gentle if she has to be. So she backs down on Annie, and both the coaches are just like, oh, goodness me, is this... Thomas's buffers feel different. Oh, Mavis, you're pulling us. Oh, dear, I didn't realise. Is Thomas all right with this? Oh, he's fine with it. He actually said... I mean, it was his idea. And both coaches are like, wow, well, he must really respect you then. And Mavis is just like, I guess so. So they take off together down the line. And Annie and Clarabelle are kind of like her tour guides. So they show her all these sites that she really only saw very briefly when she was first coming to the quarry.
Yeah.
And so she gets to see all this stuff. And it's like sensory overload. Like, she passes by Terrence and he's just in his field like, hello, how's it going? And Mavis is just like, oh, hello, hi, how are you? It's this, I can just imagine this really beautiful scene as she's weaving through the countryside with Annie and Clarabelle, and everything's so vibrant. And it's just like a whole world outside of the dim stone walls of the quarry that she really gets to experience for the first time. She passes by Bertie, and she's heard about Thomas and Bertie's race, and to see him there is a big deal. And
she's like a fangirl almost.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
She passes Percy in one of the loops, and Percy's like, oh goodness me, Mavis, go it, Mavis, you've got this. He's just so enthusiastic, and then immediately runs off some points and falls off the tracks. And he's like, oh, yeah, come back for me later. You got this, Mavis. And so she's just kind of, and she makes record time while still being giving a very smooth ride, right? And then maybe when she shows up at Knapford or Elsbridge or wherever the junction is in your own personal headcanon, she comes to a stop and Toby's there, resting in the sheds. And
Toby wakes up, he's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And he speeds over
Mavis, you're going to cause a civil war on the branch line.
Toby,
If Thomas finds out what
will
you're
you
doing
listen
here,
a minute? And she honks her
I-
horn.
yeah, just a bam, and then Toby's
I've listened to you talk over me my entire existence on this branch line. The least you can do is let me explain myself.
all right, explain why you've taken Thomas's coaches.
He gave them to me. It's fine.
Wait, he gave them to you?
Well, I mean, not permanently, but he's letting me take them. What's the problem?
Oh my. There is no problem, Mavis. I'm sorry. I need to go speak to Thomas.
And he goes up the branch line with Henrietta, right? And Henrietta's just like, you done messed up this time, Toby.
Yeah, I know. Let's go talk to Thomas.
And so, they're kind of, they go past the windmill and over the watermill, etc. And finally, Thomas, of all things, is shunting at the quarry. And Toby goes up there, and Toby's just like,
"You're a bit old for this sort of work, aren't you, Thomas?"
"You're one to talk about being old."
"We are the same age."
"I know."
You're breaking the law, by the way.
"Yeah, well, the law only applies when the policeman is here, doesn't it?"
"No, that's not how it works. Look, I saw that you gave Mavis your coaches for the day."
"Yeah, I did. She deserved them." And Toby's just taken aback, like,
Since when did you become more supportive than I am?"
"Since you were showing that engine no support? I mean, Toby, she needs some sort of guiding figure. She just came out of the factory a couple years ago. I mean, she needs somebody to believe in her. Somebody to tell her that she's not useless. Somebody to tell her that she has a lot of good qualities that need to be encouraged. And God knows that's what I needed, and I never got it. From anyone but Edward. And even he was only around half the time. I mean, she needs somebody to support her. You haven't been doing it." And Toby's just like, he's just gut-wrenched, right? He's just like, oh my God, like, Thomas had to step in because I was not being, like, a good mentor. And he's just like,
You're right, Thomas. You're more than right. I should have showed her more support. I mean, when she came into the junction, I assumed she'd stolen the coaches.
"You assume she stole them? I'm sorry, Toby, do you think anyone could pry Annie and Clarabelle away from my cold, dead couplings? Do you really think that I wouldn't fight them off?"
This isn't about you, Thomas, or your ability to fight anyone off. This is about Mavis.
Okay, you're right, yeah. But I'm just saying, nobody's going to be able to take Annie and Clarabelle away from me forcibly. I handed them over because I thought that they'd have a good time with Mavis, and Mavis would have a good time with them. And did they? Or are you coming here because there's been a train wreck? Is there a train wreck?
No, it's fine. No, in fact, she was there in record time, and in fact, the passengers all sang her praises.
Well, that's my girl.
No, that's my girl. Oh.
And it's like, Toby's just realizing, like, he wants to be this proud mentor, but he can't because he's been a jerk. And Thomas is a better mentor to Mavis than he is. And Thomas is like, "Look, I can tell that you care about that new engine. I mean, you two have a lot in common besides the side plates. I mean, you have a similar level of stubbornness."
"Yeah, well, you have that same stubbornness too, Thomas. I mean, the three of us..."
But when are we going to
I dare
stop
say
being
we are-
fusspots, Toby? It's been so many years, and I mean, frankly, I'm sick of it. I want to live a little, and we should let the new engine do the same thing.
Am I really that much of a fusspot?
Absolutely, Toby. I've known you my whole life. Well, almost. I mean, but you've been a fusspot since the beginning. That's my point.
Yeah, alright, I get your meaning. Alright, I suppose it's time to loosen our belts a little bit. Time to actually, what did you say, live a little?
Of course, Toby.
I've been doing the same job for the last 10 years or so. I've been taking passengers up and down from the quarry, but, I mean, if Mavis can take your train down to the junction, maybe it's time I took on a few other jobs. Maybe it's time I tried something new. Hell, maybe I could help shunt Elsbridge or something.
Maybe I could take the express!
Whoa, Toby, calm down. Maybe not that far. That's my future job. Just don't, but like Mavis being on the branch line and being like kind of this fresh blood that's daring like Thomas was in his youth actually makes Thomas and Toby realize that they've both kind of been fuddy-duddies for a while. Even Thomas, right? Like, it's interesting that like what you say there, like they're both fusspots. Like Thomas kind of realizes this in real time talking to Toby is like, we've both been stuck in our ways for a long time, haven't we? And Toby's just like, you're right. So, like, after that, that really changing occurrence where Mavis takes Thomas's passengers, they kind of start to change. They start to be a little bit more open. And so Mavis gets to, like, I could almost see a point where Mavis is more or less like a branch line engine just like they are. Like, she gets her work done at the quarry so efficiently and effectively that she has a lot of downtime. And on that downtime, she definitely, she goes all the way down to the junction sometimes. Maybe even down to Tidmouth. which I think is fitting,
because that would be so sweet. It's her first time in like Tidmouth, or it's like the big station where she sees all the mainline engines working, and it's like,
I know, like,
it's this sweet
imagine how they'd like she'd go into the big station, go under the enormous signal gantry.
James would be like, "Oh my god, it's another diesel!"
Depends on what year this happens.
Rolling up his sleeve.
Oh my god, no. Henry's just like, Mavis, run! That's her first experience on the big station. James is getting his shotgun. No, it wouldn't be that. It would be interesting, like, if she shows up, she would give some really good gruff to James, right? Like, if James kind of sidles up to her and he's just like, he would do one of two things. He'd either be like, "Ugh, another diesel. You have about 5 minutes to get out of here before I tell everybody about your dastardly presence." Or, alternatively, she'd be like, "So we finally have a new yard shunter, Why don't you get to work, darling?" And then Mavis is just kind of like, she goes and rolls up her sleeves, too. And she's just like, "I'm not here to shunt your trucks, James. I'm actually here to bring in some stone." And she, like, gestures back to the stone trucks, and James is just like,
"Stone? Well, typical. That's a low-tier train, that only the lowest of the low pull stone. They called it the Stone Age for a reason."
And then maybe Duck comes over, and he's just like, "All right, here's your stone train, James." And James is just like,
"Damn it!"
That's not my stone train. It's Edward's stone train. And Edward's like over in the other siding, like broken down. Like he's in need of desperate maintenance. And Edward's just like, "James, please, not again." And James is just like, "It says on the schedule, Edward, that's your stone. I've got to pull,
my coaches are here." And he takes Gordon's Express.
"Come back! James, I swear to God, this is the last time! We're not letting you back in the sheds this time."
But, like, he'd go to great lengths to, like Mavis would, like, turn things around. So instead of her having to prove herself, instead James is trying to prove himself, right?
Right.
I feel like she's like, Mavis is a very,
she's a very positive and like, she's a warm presence. Like, people can come up to Mavis and talk to her.
Right. Like, I feel like somebody like Henry, who's a little bit more sensitive in nature, and not really quite as arrogant as Gordon and James, would come up to her and just be like, "So, you're the new diesel on the Farquhar branch, are you?" And Mavis is just like, "Oh, yes, I've worked there about a year now, and it's gone well, more or less. We've had a few interesting situations between me and Toby, but I dare say that, I've been a service to the line." And Henry's just like, "Oh, well, good for you.
It's really nice to see where all of our stone comes from. Everyone just thinks that stone falls into their laps. Every tree that's cut down, every stone that's mined, every resource, everyone thinks they just have it handed to them. But no, it's engines like you that make it possible, Mavis. So, I think we owe you our debt of gratitude."
Well, thank you, Henry. That means a great deal.
Especially the timber. I mean, the timber, that comes from rather small forests that need to be replenished, and
Yes, well, thank you, Henry, but...
And the trees are just cut down with no reason or no rhyme, just hundreds by the day, and then they say, "Henry, you go take the trees. You take the logs. You like trees, don't you, Henry? Go take the log cars, Henry."
"Oh, well, actually, Henry, I really must be going."
And then the nerve of it, then I tell James, "James, could you please take all the wood? I don't like..."
Yeah. He's just like, he just breaks into tears by the end of it. He's just like, "I don't like long cars." And Mavis is like,
maybe
right,
I'll
Henry.
pull your logs sometimes.
"Thank you! Thank God, thank you! Please, if you could, that'd be lovely. You could take them all the way to Vickerstown."
Vickerstown. And then we, like, cut to, like, Mavis, like, gliding along the line with a log train, just like, whee! And it's like, past the ocean and stuff,
And then I think at that point the Fat Controller would notice that Mavis is taking Northwestern trains, and I feel like he's worried that there would be issues with the manager.
Right.
Because at this point she's past her downtime.
Right. Like, I imagine the Fat Controller, like, going and talking to, like, the manager. What do you think the manager at Anofa Quarry is like? Like, what do you think?
He seems like a reasonable guy. I mean, Mavis asks him if she could go down the line, and he allows it. I mean, he's kind of open to dialogue with Mavis.
Right. I could see a sort of situation where him and the Fat Controller kind of have very loose, like, almost nothing's written down on paper as to, like, how they operate their engines. Like, you know, the quarry manager's just like, you know, well, you know, for years now, I mean, you have been sending your engines up to here to help us, and, I mean, you know, back with the coffee pots back in the day, they did a lot of work here, then Thomas, and then there was that little scuffle with the police, but I'm not going to get into that. And then
Those charges were never proven.
Or they were expunged, but again, we're not going to get into it. That was a little bit of a tense time. We didn't really talk for a few years, but, you know, the point being, Topham, I mean, if you want us to send our diesel down the line a little bit, just to, you know, I mean, it'll help her morale, it will help teach her things that she could use here at the quarry, and, I hear she's been quite useful on your main line occasionally.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, she, stopped Henry's panic attacks with the lumber trains.
Stopped his panic attacks? Now, that is remarkable. Has anyone ever been able to do that besides Edward?
Emily that one time. But, no.
Well, there you go. You know, just make sure you don't, call her over too much. We do have work to do here. But, you know, I have a feeling Mavis is an extremely dedicated worker. I don't think she'd stay away for long. Frankly, sometimes I worry. She's a little bit obsessed with this quarry. I mean, she tends to focus too hard on her work. You know, we have to give her maintenance more frequently than I'd really expect. She just runs herself into the ground. It's almost like we could afford to have another engine to help her out. But it'll be a while until we get to that point. You understand, we don't make as much money as your railway.
Well, yes, I understand, and yes, Mavis is a very fine worker who's learned a lot from the Northwestern Railway, and I consider it a great partnership. Maybe one day
Yes.
you'll have another engine.
Maybe one day. Just make sure you don't steal Mavis away from us, you understand. I mean,
Oh,
she is, you
of
know, we
course.
did work a solid 50 years to afford her. I just make sure
Right.
you don't take her away, is all I'm saying, sir. I know you, on occasion, you know, buy up engines from small companies, and, you know what I'm saying. I just don't... She's ours. Let me just make that clear.
Well, yes, very well, and
That was a
We'll
bit of
call
a
it-
delayed response, wasn't it, Topham?
we'll call it a Bill and Ben situation.
All right, let's call it that. Thank you for
Unless,
speaking, sir.
Unless you want 1,000 bob for her.
No, sir, I just made things extremely clear.
Yes.
Where
yes. Very well. Good day.
Good day. Like, there's a bit of tension between them. Like,
Well, think about
like
it. The manager owns Mavis, but he's not allowed to any of the big controller meetings.
right? Yeah, exactly.
No one,
And, like-
no one asks where the Farquhar Quarry manager is when the Culdee Fell, the Scarlowy, and the Northwestern get together.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, they don't. Even though he technically does own a railway, like, it's just a quarry railway, and it's very
Yeah.
short. But, like, you know, I feel like, honestly, you could have a conglomerate of, like the Sodor China Clay Pits owner, and, like, the Farquhar
Ironworks
Quarry owner, the Ironworks owner, maybe Fergus is privately owned by the Cement Works, so you have the Cement Works owner.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it be great to see kind of the B list controllers meeting?
Well, get this is like that would be funny. Like all the main controllers gather in the Fat Controller's like nice house and everything, and,
Yeah.
and the small controllers are getting together in like a shed.
A shed. Or the one time they're invited to the Fat Controllers meeting, their table's shorter and further away.
They're
it's
at
like
the
the kids'
kids'
table.
table.
Yeah. Like, and you know, I imagine they'd all react differently. Like the Farquhar Quarry owner would just be like, well, this is nice. They finally invited us to the meeting. And then the Ironworks controller, kind of cleaning his fingertips with like a knife, would just be like, God damn it, no! We're at the kids' table! We're at the bloody kids' table! And, you know...
Fergus Duncan just looks over his shoulder.
like Topham's just like, is everything all right over there? And
what are you looking at, skinny boy?
They just look back. They just like, they try to ignore them. Like,
you know what would
really
be funny is there would be
Yeah.
a lot of cooperation between the controllers too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Is my thinking, especially because think about the episodes where Mavis is working with Bill, Ben, and Fergus, and
Yeah.
the Ironworks diesels in the CGI series are seen at the Farquhar Quarry.
Yeah.
Like Bill and Ben go to the Farquhar Quarry at one point.
I have a feeling that I honestly have this feeling like the Ironworks. Like, how well is an Ironworks going to do on the island of Sodor, exactly?
Not
like,
very well.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're, like, desperate for business, and, like, Ari and Bert, sometimes there's not even enough work for, like, one diesel, let alone two, so they'll, like, send them over. Like I imagine, you know, imagine that the Ironworks controller he's just lost so much money at this point that, like, he's, like, driving around this real beater of a car that's just all broken down, and I imagine, like, the Farquhar Quarry company owner... you know, we need to give these people names, or they're gonna be hard to describe.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that there was a name for the guy who actually started the Farquhar Quarry Company. The guy who built like the big bridge out of Farquhar stone.
John Crory.
Did you find it?
Yeah, John Crory's father, Jabez.
Oh yeah, that's it. I knew it was a name that like I wouldn't guess.
Yeah.
But Mr. Crory. All right.
Mr.
So
Crory.
So we'll just apply immortal fat controller Santa Claus terms and say that everyone lives forever. So you got John Crory, right? And then you've also got who's in charge of the Ironworks? Who's the very scary man that cleans his fingernails with a knife?
Phil Ironsides.
Phil Ironsides. All right. So we got Mr. Ironsides and Mr. Crory, right? Mm-hmm. So Ironsides is in his beaten up old car, right? And he's driving up, you know, all the way on the really bad Sodor roads, all the way to the Farquhar Quarry from the Ironworks, which is like on the eastern side of the island, right? So he's got like a real drive ahead of him. He's leaking gas. You know, he's just in terrible shape because his company's a disaster because they rely on scrapping steam engines in the middle of the one place in the entire world that doesn't do that. So,
right.
You know, he's doing really badly. Then imagine you've got Mr. Crory in his, like, sitting room, you know, sipping a nice cup of tea, and then all of a sudden outside he hears this kind of... like, it's this broken down car kind of coming up the driveway. And it stops... And then, like, I imagine, like, Mr. Ironside, he literally goes up to the window and knocks on it, like looking right in at him. And Crory looks over, sipping his tea, and he's just like, oh my god, what are you doing there? Mr. Ironside, you be Ironside.
Yeah.
Mr. Ironside, is that you?
Let me in!
I don't know if I really want to.
Let me in, damn it!
Okay, fine. And he unlocks the door, right? And he's like, come in, please, it's pouring rain. What are you doing here exactly?
Must be nice not to live in a car.
I'm terribly sorry to hear that. Let's move on to more positive matters, perhaps.
There's nothing positive about these matters. I'm broke, damn it.
Okay, you're broke. I knew you were broke, but I just don't...
Listen.
Yes?
You gotta house my diesels.
What?
They're coming for me. The repo men, they're coming for me.
What do you mean they're coming for you?
Grab them by the collar. Damn it, man! Don't you know English?
Yes. Okay, they're coming for you.
Listen. You know my diesels, right, Harry, Bert? You know.
It sounded like you were going to say a third one. Yes,
just Harry. Are you an idiot, man? Have you ever seen a third one?
Just Harry.
Listen to me, Croy. You have to take in my diesels. They must go to the quarry.
Well, I guess we do have some extra work.
You want diesels, don't you? You want engines? You always talk
not
about
those
you want
diesels. They're very antisocial. They don't. The engines.
They
don't
are my flesh and blood. They are the most beautiful diesels on the island. Thank you very much.
Oh, of course, right.
They're coming to take Harry and Bert away from me.
Okay, right.
So you'll look after them.
You mean hide them? You want me to hide them?
You take care of them.
Look, I've done you a lot of favors over the years, Mr. Ironside, but this is a little crazy, I'm just saying.
I know it sounds crazy, but listen. I put your money in the investment fund too.
What? I'm invested in this.
Yes. I mean, I'm still gotta make my rounds, talk to the cement works guy. I gotta talk to Bill and Ben's drivers, they're in on it too. But listen, the point is, I screwed up.
I've tried
I
to
put all
keep
of our
my...
Listen. The Fat Controller's not gonna help me. I know he's not. He's just not that kind of guy. He never helps anybody.
No, he follows the law is what he does. He's helped me many times.
We don't need to talk about that. We don't need to... Listen, just take Ari and Bert, and no one needs to know about anything, okay? I'll take
How am I supposed to hide those two diesels? People are going to see them, and they're going to wonder,
man.
why are Ari and Bert working at the quarry? That's what they're going to wonder.
No. They're Gronks. Everyone knows that Gronks are just like... They're like any other engine, okay? So you'll take in my Gronks, and no one gets hurt.
I'm going to jail.
No,
Fine,
you're not. Don't
fine.
worry about it.
I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Good.
Now, please, get out of my house. You've put a lot of muddy boot stains all over my nice carpet.
And one other thing.
What?
I need a ride.
You need a ride? What, your car's... Oh, my God, it's on fire.
oh no.
Fine, I'll give you a ride home. Unfortunately, I take Mavis everywhere, including to the grocery store, so we're going to have to go out and explain this to her. And then they walk outside, and it's like, Mavis, what is it, sir? I'm... Wait a minute, is that the Ironworks manager?
Listen here, Missy, I don't got a lot of time. Can you take me to the Ironworks?
All the way to the Ironworks? I've had a long day, and No, Mavis, please, just listen to the man. He's had a long day as well, and, you seem rather flustered.
We're going to the Ironworks, and we're taking Ari and Bert back with you. I'm gonna sleep in... Well, I guess I can't sleep in my car anymore. I'll sleep in the smelter's shed. Just come on. Just come on.
All right,
just
get in my cab. Ari and Bert, I do say. And so imagine, like, the days that come after this, right? I love that. That's such a... I love the back and forth between these two characters that we just invented.
Yeah.
That's so fun. But yeah, so, Mavis, goes and brings back Ari and Bert. And now all of a sudden, and I'm imagining this is, like, quite a long time after Mavis has arrived. So this is in maybe, like, the 70s or 80s that, like, we finally have, like, Mavis is extremely experienced by this point. She's extremely grounded and very, she knows the quarry and really a lot of other types of work too, like the back of her buffers. Mm-hmm. So now you bring in Ari and Bert, who have never worked in a quarry before, and all of a sudden she kind of has proteges. But proteges who kind of hate her guts. Like, I imagine the two of them are working at the quarry, and they have mixed feelings, right? Because on one level, they're kind of like, they just think,
Yeah, why will it listen to this broad for exactly, Harry? I mean, come on, it just doesn't make sense,
Let's not mention the fact that they're on Thomas's branch line.
I know, yeah. It's like,
I'm still shuddering from that whole
Can you imagine when Thomas finds out about this?
Yeah, Thomas would, like, see them passing by, like, and he would just be like, he would... I don't know what he would do. I feel like they would go out of their way to hide that. Like, and also the fact that Mr. Ironside, like, was, like, specifically, like, you gotta hide them. Maybe they hid this fact from Thomas the whole time. So they did
the great race thing where they made them look like boxcars.
God damn it, yeah. and they're just like, this is so humiliating. We're covered with... Shush! Trucks don't sound like Ari and Bert.
That's natural. And like Thomas is going by.
Yeah.
Like,
and then they're just
truck. I like causing derailments.
What the hell are those, Mavis? Those weird trucks? Oh,
they're foreign.
They're a special. Right.
A foreign special.
They have 6 wheels underneath and side rods.
They're Central European.
Ugh, gross. Okay, just get him to the quarry as soon as you can. I don't want to see him anymore.
Truck. We hate Thomas. Truck.
Hey, what was that? Nothing. Let's keep going. So they
That's Central European for hello.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. They all have the same language. So
they end up at the quarry, right? And now Ari and Bert have been smuggled in, and Mavis now has to she has to train them how to work at this quarry. The repo men are coming for them, so nobody knows that Ari and Bert are here. On the books, they're not even present. But just imagine, how... Mavis maybe over time has cultivated, a very strong relationship with all the trucks. She's actually gained their trust. Yeah. And then Ari and Bert come in, and they're just like, all right, here we go. And then boom, and then the truck goes across the yard and smashes into a million pieces against the rock wall. And he's just he's just sitting there on the ground, in pieces, just why did you let this happen, Mavis? She's like, we do not treat our trucks like that. Oh God, where's the truck repair first aid kit?
Where's the duct tape? Well, and so they have this existence, but then I would love if Mr. Ironsides' financial blow up bleeds into the other railways. So then Bill and Ben have to come and hide in the quarry.
Oh my God, is this what's happening? The fact that all the smaller companies have been just totally corrupted by the Ironworks' stupid business decisions. So
he has access to all their bank accounts because they trusted him as as being the financial guy.
That would be great because the Fat Controller, they'd finally have to come to the Fat Controller eventually and be like, look, remember that little conglomerate we made? This would be Mr. Tory.
Yeah, go ahead.
And Topham would just be like, I told you it was a bad idea. You should have just thrown in with us. I know, sir. I know, but it just Mr. Ironside.
Listen, man. When someone tells you to invest in pizza on a stick, you invest.
You shut up. You don't know the first thing about business. Otherwise, you wouldn't have built a damn ironworks in the middle of a steam railway that focuses on preservation.
Well, your engines were not very cooperative when we told them to go to the smelter's yard.
For the love of God, go to the mainland. That's where you belong.
I imagine how much, Mr. Ironside and Sir Topham Hatt would hate each other.
Yeah.
They would just be so... Well, but Mr. Ironside's just so compelling that, he's managed to get all the smaller controllers in on it. Which is why they're small controllers, is, they haven't been able to make the best business decisions. Right. All the big controllers... you go up to, the thin controller. You go up to, Mr. Peter Sam, and he's just like, no, I don't think so. Hot dog on a stick. That doesn't really sound like a proper business venture to me. I think I'll stick to my railway, thank you. But yeah...
Well, and then get this. So now you have the absolute worst possible mix of characters.
I know.
On the
Mavis is now
quarry.
responsible for overseeing Ari and Bert and Bill and Ben and Fergus. That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Bill and Ben show up, and the first thing that they do is play pranks on Ari and Bert. Ari and Bert react by trying to kill Bill and Ben, and Mavis has to prevent them from trying to kill Bill and Ben.
Mavis goes to a desolate part of the quarry and sees that they're erecting a smelting shed, and she's like, no, you will not do this. Tear that thing down at once. Ow, the light, it's blinding. Oh, why is it always got to be red? And they're just like,
no, we're almost done. Just give us a little bit longer, then we'll get rid of all these pests for you. We're trying to do this for you, Mavis. Get rid of Bill and Ben and Fergus.
And Fergus has actually been helping me.
Fergus is in the middle of a bunch of trucks. He's a middle engine, and Bill and Ben are trying to rip him in half.
God damn it. He's just like, ow, oh, ah.
Bill, Ben, let go of your elders.
Yeah. It'd be great, though, because I imagine, Ari and Bert arrive, Bill and Ben arrive, and this is, for a few years period. All those episodes where Bill and Ben are at Mavis's quarry and Ari and Bert are there as well, those all take place, during this, 2 or 3 year long financial disaster.
Crisis, yeah.
Yeah, caused by the Ironsides, by Mr. Ironside's company. So, I imagine that, Mavis is overseeing all of them, and then Fergus arrives, and he's the first breath of fresh air in a while, is he's actually, willing to, lay down the law. Because the cement works is in financial crisis, too, so they've had to send their engine over. And so Fergus is here, and he's just like, oh my God, this whole place is in a terrible state, isn't it, Mavis? We must work together to fix it. And Mavis is like, fix it? That's the first time I've heard anyone say that in a long time. Even Toby and Thomas are scared to come up here. Every time Percy does, he just gets made fun of for having a high whistle and whatnot, so he usually runs off in tears. I've been having to handle this place on my own. Now you're here to help me.
Well, we'll get this place ship-shape. All right, Mavis? First thing I'm going to do is go up to Ari and Bert and tell them to stop being such a nuisance. I'm going to confront them. Head
Wait,
on.
now, hold on a minute, Fergus.
Listen here, you diesels.
Well, would you look at that? This little tiny Victorian mess of an engine.
You're not in the
So-
smelters anymore, so I don't want to hear it. Now you're going to do it right. And let me give you a 5-step presentation on what doing it right means. Really.
God, no, not another PowerPoint. Mavis does enough of those. Get him!
And they like puff her up on either side, and like they start taking him to like they start racing down into like the mines, and Mavis is like, wait, no, stop, only Bill and Ben can fit down there. And then they like crash into the roof, and like, you know, it's like they'd stuff like Fergus into the mine like you stuff like a nerd into a locker in high school. They'd just be like, get in there, and then he's like all crammed. And, like, there'd be a lot of moments where Mavis would have to honk her horn and just be like, BAM! And then everybody stops. You know, like, Ari and Bert let go of Bill and Ben let go of Fergus. And then they all just, like, stop. And Mavis is like, all right, listen to me and listen good. This is my quarry. I'm in charge, and I refuse to let all of you run amok in it. You all have jobs to do, and I will see to it that you do them right. And they all just they all go pale because she's actually like commanding for once. You know, like she's been trying to be kind of reasonable with them and quiet, but it hasn't worked. So
And then Mavis is like, now I think the one thing we need to do, the one thing that's going to solve this problem, we need to talk to each other.
yes, and then they like Ari and Bert look at each other awkwardly like,
We've never once talked about our feelings ever.
and then, you know, and Bill and Ben are like, you know, we haven't really done that either. Like, once in our whole life,
We've tried to destroy everyone else's feelings to prevent talking about our own. Well, see, you just did talk about your feelings now, didn't you?
Oh no, you're right. Oh, I'm having to confront emotions I've never had to confront before.
I love you, Bert.
I love you too, Harry.
Why did we kill so many engines?
I don't know. We'll never be able to atone. Oh, God.
All right, that's a good start, but maybe let's start with somebody that didn't do war crimes. Fergus, why are you so focused on the rules?
Well, ever since I was a really young engine, I suppose I just, I thought it was the only thing that could give me any control over my life. I mean, people would always bully me and, you know, cram me into mines and whatnot, and,
Oh, so that's something that's been a lifelong problem for you? That's tragic.
You know, like they all...
I've never been stuffed in a mine before. I'll never know what it feels like.
I wish I could be stuffed in a mine.
I'll stuff you in a mine, Bert.
Thank you, Harry.
All right, I suppose this is going somewhere. You know.
But by the end of it, she rallies them.
Yeah, like that. Like at last, they've all talked out their feelings for like a really long time, and maybe Mavis literally does that while shunting the quarry, like, and then all the work's done, and everybody's finally kind of at peace with each other. And Ari and Bert are like,
Alright, so let me get this straight. We've made a pact so that the 3 steam engines we will never kill are Bill, Ben, and Fergus.
"Yes, that's right. That's where we're starting here."
And also Thomas and Toby if they happen to come down to the quarry. But we get to kill Percy.
No,
Right,
no,
yeah, yeah.
I just
No, we want Percy.
Wait, okay. Who do we kill and who don't we kill?
For now, you don't kill anyone.
What about Stepney? He's come down here once.
I doubt he's coming back. Guess who's back for another visit? Stepney, leave!
Get him!
He's on our very short kill list. It's Oliver and Stepney. Those are the 2 that we need
And
to
if
kill.
we can, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah, he's done us dirty a few times.
I'm not even going to get into that. You know. But yeah, I just love the idea of Mavis's quarry just becoming overrun for a period of time with like a lot of engines, and her having to actually be a leader.
And then the Farquhar Quarry starts making a ton of money.
Right. Yeah. Like they like tap into all new like stone reserves, and like the quarry gets bigger, and like, you know, they can actually like they actually have some work for a lot of these engines. But then slowly over time, like I imagine finally Mr. Ironside becomes like desperate enough that he goes to the Fat Controller and he's just like, okay, look, I need your help. And Topham's like,
Yes, I know you do. I've been waiting for you to come to me for about 2 years.
How much do you need?
and he like takes out his wallet, right? And he's just like, don't just insult me with your nickels and dimes. No, I need you to give me a plan, a financial plan to fix my company.
All right, well, here's the plan. It's really complicated, so please just listen closely. So, stop trying to scrap steam engines and scrap things that are actually being sent to your scrapyard, like tin cans and old vehicle parts. And
well, how am I going to have a tin can collection if I keep scrapping them?
Listen to my plan, for God's sake. You're in a desperate state. You're lucky to even have a tin can collection. Is that why every time you get out of your car, a bunch of tin cans fall out? I thought those were beer cans.
No.
Or is it both?
Well, okay, a little bit of both, but mostly the tin cans.
Look, Mavis's quarry is overrun. Mr. Crowry's been begging me to do something about it. I've got to fix this. I'm putting my best financial advisor on it. We're going to fix your company, and then you can get all your damn engines out of there, and for the love of God, we can start making cement again, too, because Fergus hasn't seen the cement works in God knows how long. Edward is extremely lonely. It's...
But you know, the Fat Controller swoops in and finally manages to fix this huge mess of financial disaster that the Ironworks controller has caused. And everyone leaves and exits the quarry, and so now Mavis is finally free to go about her business normally. But yeah, anyway, we've gone on for a long time here. I'm thinking that to get more character galleries out, it probably makes more sense just to not censor ourselves and to just
go for it.
Yeah, just go for it, you know. So we didn't.
It's
really
like
put
early
anything...
character gallery. That's what you're gonna get.
Yeah. You know. So I want to hear what people think. Is this too much? Does this work? Did you guys like this? You know, and you know,
also,
without
hi,
further...
welcome again.
Yeah. Hi. Welcome again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know we've been away for a while, but I think we finally found our groove again. And it's just the fact that I would never want to make this show if we didn't enjoy it. And it just wasn't, you know, we didn't have the time for a while. And to cram episodes in, even when we didn't, you know, it didn't work for our schedules, just wouldn't make any sense, in my opinion.
Right.
You know, so we just let the show go for a while, and I don't have any regrets about that. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, I love making the show, but I'm not going to cheapen it by releasing it at times that we just don't have the time to.
This is going to be a way that character gallery is going to stay quality, character gallery is going to stay fun. So
yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, you know, I think that this has been a great episode. Talking about Mavis is great.
She's been on our list for a while, so I was glad to just get through, just to finally do an episode on Mavis.
Yeah, no, exactly, for sure. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I expect that we'll start doing these again quite frequently especially now that we have this kind of style going where it's easier to not hyper edit it, because you know in the past I've edited like every single second of audio to make it better, right. And I'm almost thinking it's probably better just to be lax and genuine and not worry too much about how it's kind of trimmed and edited and just go for it. So that's what we've done. I want to hear what you guys think about it. You know, what's your opinions? But yeah, so I guess without further ado, I've been Master of the Lemons, aka Lemmy.
And I'm here the Japanese Train, aka Matt.
And thank you very, very, very much for watching, everybody.
See you in the next one.
See you in the next one.